a no-wheel fight?
Can you move that?
This is my 150-gram combat robot, Guestimate. It is a horizontal spinner that spins a tool steel bar at the front to annihilate its opponents. I took it to Robot Havoc this year, which is a big 3-day robot combat event and is basically the Antweight Nationals for Australia. Before we talk about the fights though, we do need to address a problem that I had at the very end of the build video. This robot was overweight. The weight limit, as mentioned, is 150 grams. I was sitting at 152. So to bring the whole robot back in underweight, I simply trimmed the PCBs. There was a little bit of extra material in here that did not need to exist, so I just cut it off with a hacksaw on all 4 corners and ended up with a robot that was underweight. Robot Havoc runs much like any other ARC robot combat event. We have a round robin group and then we have finals after the round robin group. Our round robin group is mostly interstate competitors and it is all horizontal spinners. We have Omnivore, an undercutter, Mini Chaos, a melty brain-esque robot, Cyclone, an overhead spinner, and Downforce, an overhead spinner, as well as, of course, Guestimate, my robot. We'll need to battle everybody else in this round robin group, so let's get started. And first up, we're fighting Omnivore, the undercutter.
3, 2, 1, fight. Oh, that's a belt. That is. Oh, it is fun. Oh, okay. No, it's fine. As long as it keeps me at this point. Oh. I heard the beats. Yep. Enough to get you what you're doing again, or? No. No? Okay. You can press this notch at me, that's all you can do. Another O-ring. Oh, stop! Sorry, he's going. 2 minutes left in the match. Oh, he's dead. Oh, no, got power. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's a win for Guestimate!
That was a very interesting first fight for the cutting blades that I had designed for Guestimate. They had a sharp-ish edge on them and they're made out of S7 tool steel. However, I had not had the S7 tool steel hardened, so hitting into his front armor chipped and buckled that cutting edge, meaning that when I was hitting other places later on, it was not really cutting into him as much as it was designed to do. It did manage to cut his O-rings, which transfers power between his front and back wheels, basically making him a 2-wheel drive robot towards the end of this fight. He was also having some kind of weird weapon issue. I'm not sure if he was just not turning it on or if he was actually having issues with the weapon spinning up, but he did not really seem to have the weapon spun up for much of this fight, which meant that I didn't really take any damage in any of the hits. I also had a slightly longer reach with the cutting weapon on, so in a front-to-front collision, I was actually hitting and he was not, which is where you want to be with a robot that has a bit of reach on it. It just means that your weapon can also be your defense. You don't need to have lots of armor everywhere because you're just hitting things with the weapon and not worrying about being hit yourself. And unfortunately, this fight ended with electrical gremlins. There was a couple of times where I hit him and it turned him off, and I hit him again and it turned the robot back on, and I hit him again and it turned the robot back off. That would indicate some kind of short or loose connection somewhere inside the robot. And of course, once I clued into what was actually happening, I stopped hitting him after he had stopped one of the times. I say when I clued in because fighting is a very focused activity. It can be hard to notice detail outside of there is my opponent, I need to point my weapon at them and hit them and just keep doing that until, you know, time is cold or the pit goes down or whatever. And yeah, it did take me a little while to realize that he was turning on and off. And yeah, I just needed to leave him in an off position. So with that, we get our first win, which is 2 points for our round robin group and off to a solid start. Next up, we are going up against Mini Chaos, the only other Adelaide entrant in our round robin group, and a Melty Brain-esque robot.
One, fight!
Let's go. Oh, damn. Yeah, Ben, you're in for a bad time. Oh no, is that your weapon?
I'm my own weapon.
No.
Exactly. He's spinning.
One chaotic team.
Oh! One of his teeth is wedged in my weapon system.
Oh my god.
We all wish we had reverse, right?
Somebody's lost a screw.
You know, it's unfair. One has metal covered.
Oh,
look at the other wheel.
I've got no wheels and still spinning.
What? That is something entirely
That's
about
a
this.
everybody. He can spin with no wheels. If he has the momentum,
They're not
as soon as I run out of momentum, I'm dead.
Hit warning in 6 seconds.
12 seconds.
You don't want to be there. You really don't want to be there.
Yes, yeah.
I guess it's not that many seconds. Which one's press up ahead? Alright.
Sorry.
Why am I not going down? Oh.
Yes!
I'm counting in the wrong bit.
I guess I can spin with no wheels. I can spin with no wheels.
Speaking of wheels,
Oh no!
are we ready for a no-wheel fight?
Can you move that one?
I know
That's
I
still
can.
moving. I hit you with your own wheel.
So it's just like the momentum of the bike. Maybe it's become a fact. Watch it. And pray to God it comes out. Oh, you were dancing with fire. What?
Oh, just in time.
It's weird putting him out. I know I can map down if I have enough speed.
I have a question. Have you ever heard about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7? There's something called a power code spin. Believe it in.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, man.
Oh, come on, man.
Make contact.
Make contact. Now
You land up the top. It's like a game of
Oh no!
It's like a game of golf.
Come on. Hit. Oh, I unlocked it. Oh, no.
Oh!
Whoopsie.
Come on.
3, 2, 1. It's a draw. Wow! Great fight.
Oof! A lot happened in that fight. That was ridiculous. Obviously, very early on, I managed to get one of his teeth off of his flails that are attached to the end of his melty brain, stuck inside Guestimate in the frame, jamming up my entire weapon system, which is just not ever where you want to be in a fight. When you've got a weapon, jamming it up is not a fun thing to do. I was then trying for basically the rest of the fight to do the thing I managed to do very, very near the end, which was to jam my gear stack into him spinning in such a way that it popped the weapon and freed everything up and allowed me to get the weapon back up to speed. But of course, that is a very, very hard thing to do. It's very difficult to control precisely where he hits you when he's got flail chains spinning at a very high speed, and you can't even really see the exact diameter of where those chains are. It just means lining up a shot is very, very difficult. Speaking of him spinning, it is one of the craziest things to me that he managed to keep spinning despite losing both of his wheels. It so happened that after the fight, looking at the robot, the motors were mounted on two walls that should have been sitting up and down like this, but the force of them spinning had tilted those walls out so the motors were able to touch the ground themselves, which means after his wheels were gone, he was literally spinning on the cans of his brushless motors, which is bonkers. You should not be able to do that. That should not be physically possible when you've designed the robot so that those cans don't touch the ground when the robot doesn't have wheels on. Somehow he got the luckiest anybody has got with their with their wheels exploding off their robot. It happened in such a way that it forced the cans into the ground and allowed him to keep going in this fight, which was just baffling. And I'm trying to like deal with that while also trying to deal with the fact that my weapon is stuck. And of course, I keep having to throw myself into him. The pit is a small pit. His chains are larger than the pit, and I know from experience that anything spinning as fast as he is spinning will not go down the pit. It needs to be slowed down before being pushed towards the pit, because that level of rotational inertia will cause him to like kick off the edges of the pit. And of course, that is what happened in this fight. With him over the pit and the pit going down, he just kind of like ping pongs around and bounces off of it. And I knew that. I have done that myself with a Melty Brain. I understand how that works. So I knew I had to keep hitting him, keep feeding my weapon and front end into him to try and slow him down enough that pushing him down the pit would be a viable option. Obviously, I didn't ever get there in this fight, but it was something on my mind all the time, was to keep engaging, keep doing it, try and get him pinned, try and get him slowed down, so that something like putting him down the pit would be a viable option. The problem with that is to keep engaging meant to keep allowing him to hit me over and over and over and over again, and my wheels are very, very exposed. One of my line drives at him, I kind of messed it up a little bit, and he managed to hit one of the wheels with a chain, and that was all bad. Because these wheels are very lightweight, they have to be for all of the stuff that I want in this robot. For the weapon size and the gear stack and stuff I need in here, I need to have not a whole lot of weight in the wheels, so it does not take a lot to break them, and that is exactly what happened in this case. He hit one of the wheels, it started to crack and fracture, and then by driving around, it just let go entirely and dropped off the robot. At this point, I had to return to crab and just crab walk around the arena. That is what it is called when you're on one motor and you are just wiggling back and forth and kind of shuffling sideways at somebody. Obviously, I was trying as best as I could to not have the good wheel that was still available to be hit by him, expecting that any other hit on a wheel would do the same thing, causing me to lose the fight by having no wheels, because that's what should happen when you have no wheels, is you should be losing the fight, but somehow he's still in this fight. I was wild. So I was having to do a lot of very controlled driving here to try and keep going at him and trying to get my weapon unjammed while also protecting the one very vulnerable wheel that I have, which is the only way I can move around the arena. And the easiest thing to do with that is to wiggle back and forth and move towards the wheel, which is obviously not what I want to do. I don't want to feed that into my opponent, because that's a bad idea, because it will cause that wheel to die. But I have crab walked a lot in my career fighting combat robots, so I was fairly okay doing it with Guestimate. Also, the design of Guestimate does allow it to crab walk fairly nicely, which is mostly something I learned in this fight. A robot's ability to crab walk is really based on its geometry and how it kind of sits on the ground when only one wheel is on and things, and it's not something you can really design for. It's just something you find out when you have a wheel knocked off halfway through a fight and just have to try and keep moving and keep at your opponent. Speaking of doing that, I did finally, right towards the end, manage to hit him in such a way that the tooth that was wedging up all of my gear stack finally released and I got my weapon back. Of course, as soon as I did that, I got pinballed over towards the pit, and that was a very precarious position for me to be in, because with the robot only on one wheel, spinning up or spinning down the weapon would cause a torsional twisting force on the robot, which could have kind of pirouetted me into the pit. So I had to be very, very, very careful in how I was driving and how I was controlling my weapon to stay alive and stay out of the pit. It was also, of course, with 10 seconds left to go in the fight, so I just had to write it out and get the draw. That was all of my fights on day 1 of this 2-day event. And obviously I was not very happy with how quickly and easily my wheels were destroyed in day 1. Chains spinning at high speed should do a little bit of damage, but they shouldn't have like one-shot KO'd a wheel. And looking at the damage to the wheel, I realized I needed more material, I needed more fillets in the actual wheel itself, where the flat of the wheel connected to the hub just kind of make that whole thing a little better. The only problem with that is that they are a cast polyurethane wheel. It takes like 16 hours for polyurethane to set up and solidify it properly when it's sitting at its ideal temperature of about 20 degrees. This is a fight in August in Adelaide. It's cold, it's the middle of winter here. If I had just cast these wheels up and left them outside overnight, they never would have set. It would have got down into the single digits overnight, and it would have slowed the cure time on the polyurethane, and I would not have had wheels for the next day. Thankfully, Cam, one of the robot builders here, suggested putting them inside a 3D printer and leaving the bed of the 3D printer warmed and therefore having the chamber of the 3D printer warming. And that means that it's at a higher temperature for the entire evening, which does potentially run the risk of cooking the wheels, but also means that they might have a chance to work and actually solidify in time for a fight. So that is exactly what I did. However, even with that little speed up process, I still had to do a fight in the morning without those wheels. So I used the spare wheels that I had from day 1, the ones that didn't have the fillet and the extra material in them, and I just hoped that I didn't get hit in the wheels in my first fight. Speaking of, our first fight is up against Cyclone. It is an overhead horizontal spinner.
3, 2, 1. Exposed lipo. Congratulations, Guestimate.
Ah, that is unfortunate. That was a very quick fight, and I'm a little bit sad about that. Henry, the builder of this robot, has said that since this fight, he has managed to fix the issue with the lid. That was a simple issue of me hitting him and one of the screws loosening up, and then on another hit, the entire lid just popped off. And the rules in Adelaide are, as soon as your battery is exposed, the fight is stopped, especially for an event like this where there is a lot of general public around. We really, really don't want a lipo fire in that type of situation. So any exposed battery is an automatic loss, which is very unfortunate. I like Cyclone. It's a fun design and build, and also it was the first thing I'd faced this entire weekend that had TPU armor, which is what my new cutting blade was designed to cut into. And I was hoping to get a really high number of hits on Cyclone to try and see how the cutting blade actually performed, and I got a couple. And thankfully, Henry allowed me to take photos of his robot after the fight, and you can see here that the cutting blade did something kind of to the TPU. This is not the level of devastating damage that I was hoping for with this type of blade. Admittedly, the blade had been fought a couple of times before, and so the chips and wear on the blade means it's not as sharp as it would have been if I had fought Cyclone first up, but I was still expecting it to do better than just a little bit of a chunk away. So maybe a sharp blade is not the way to go, or maybe the way I have done a sharp blade is not the way I want to go moving forwards. It's something for me to think about. So we are at 3 of 4 fights from our round robin group, and so far we have won 2 and drawn 1. We are sitting in a good position at 5 points in our round robin group. That puts us pretty high up in the standings, meaning that we have a chance to make it through into the finals. Of course, we have 1 fight left to go, and this is up against Downforce, another overhead horizontal spinning robot.
3, 2, 1, fight. Go, Robert.
Oh no, Downforce got a wheel in his weapon.
You didn't want that, did you?
Oh no, he's defenseless.
That was a bad driving mistake on my
knock your wheel out.
Say that.
Can it?
That's not saying that. Say that for me. How long do I have to wait for him to control the whole of this? You can say that for me.
Hey, freedom.
Back to the corner of it.
Not go there. Beat it. Just withdraw it. Oh, it's free. Yeah, it's free. It's free. Take the other wheel. Eat it. Come on. Spin it, Dave. Me spin it. Oh, no, here's. Yep, Rob's still going. Yep. Oh.
Launch your wheel at me again.
Halfway through the match. Oh, yeah, got the other one.
There's two wheels stuck. Control movement.
Yeah, no, I'm done now. Like, I mean, I can do this, but that's not really controlled in any way. So, no, I'm done. I'm not controlled. Oh, this was not my best showing by quite a long way. I made a driving mistake early, I oversteered, I turned into him, and I fed him a wheel, and that's not what I wanted! Returning to crab for a second time in this competition, having to crab walk all the way around the arena, the only saving grace for the first little bit of me crab walking everywhere was the fact that the other wheel was jammed up in his weapon blade, and therefore he couldn't hit me, which meant that I was more safe to, like, crab walk with the wheel towards him and then pivot at the last second to slam him with the weapon. Still, definitely not ideal. This is, I think, a problem with the fact that I'm running quite fast motors in Guestimate at the moment, and I hadn't set my tuning in my radio properly, so I was touching the stick and spinning like 180 degrees. It was very, very fast. Far too fast for me to have control over turning on the spot, which in hindsight I definitely should have fixed earlier than this. And then of course I got stuck over on the pit. The pit has a very slight recess in it, which just made it hard to like crab walk my way back out of, and I kind of got stuck kind of sitting in there at about the minute mark. For this event, the pits were going down at 2 minutes for every single pit in every single fight, and that meant I had a little while to try and escape, and trying to drive and crab walk out really wasn't working, so I leaned on something that I'd learned a long, long time ago when I was at Bugglebot Season 2, which is smacking the weapon into the wall to catapult yourself very violently across the arena. It worked very, very well for Cosmin in the Last Chance Rumble at Bugglebots, so I figured I would try that same thing out and just slam my weapon into the wall, and hey, what do you know? It actually works. It threw me across the arena, getting me back out of a kind of danger zone, especially as the judge that was at the side of the arena was starting to look and say that maybe I wasn't actually having that much control of my movement because I really couldn't get out of the radius of the robot, mostly due to the lip of being stuck on the pit. This is of course where the troubles really began though, because I then managed to get one more hit on him, which freed his weapon, and then he ate my other wheel. Like, that was just always going to be the thing. It's so hard to drive crab walk style defensively, especially against somebody who has already shown that they can very easily eat one of your wheels, and he just ate the second one basically immediately, and I was out. In theory, I could have maybe made a case for spinning the weapon up and down and like using the torque reaction of the weapon to get some movement out of the robot, but it really wouldn't have been heavily controlled, and probably what really would have happened is that he would have just spent the next like minute wailing damage on me, and I would have lost it anyway. So I was just happy to call the fight then and there. With that, we're done with our round robin group, and we have 5 total points, which is okay, but it's certainly not enough to be winning the group itself. We are right on the bubble. It came down to a fight between Cyclone and Downforce that kind of made the top 3 happen, because if Cyclone had won that fight, Cyclone would have gone through and we would have dropped into 3rd place. Very luckily for me, Cyclone did not win that fight, and I went through as the 2nd place person for our group. Normally at this point we'd have a single elimination style tournament where we determined a winner from that. Unfortunately, Havoc is a very, very busy event. It is a 2-day event with a lot of public around because it's an event called Science Alive that we are part of, running Havoc. And we were running out of time. We had like less than an hour to get everything else done, including the featherweight finals and the beetleweight finals in the main cage. Featherweight finals we'll talk about in a later video because I had a featherweight in that competition, so there's more to talk about there later on. All of this though means that the antweight finals are running out of time. There is no way to do a full single elimination bracket, and so it came down to rumbles. All of the second place people, myself included, got thrown into a rumble for a chance to go into the finals rumble, which of course determined first and second by having last people standing winning those trophies. So that means we're in this rumble with all of the other second place places from their round robin groups. And there is a lot of verts in this particular rumble. So I moved over from my cutting blade back down to my shorter, stockier blade that I was hoping was going to survive vertical shots just that little bit better.
2, 1, fight! Oh, the bogey's gone down. Oh! I'm in that side. There will only be one winner. Oh, Guestimate's losing its drive mode, so I see. It's still moving. Guestimate's still got a spinner and
That's not right.
Guestimate, look at that.
The gearbox is begging to be hit.
Go on, Rod. That's the entirety of Ben's motor gun.
Nah, he's fine. It's a flesh wound.
Ben sandwich between Midnight Sun and Cathedral Chaos. Prisoner Bourbon being shoved around. Batty looks to be stuck.
Someone hit me.
Avoid Batty at all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Batty is like Ben, you hit, man. It's like Ben, you hit. Now it is. It's fine. I'll grab him from the other side. You hit. No, not me. Burby is armless.
You gotta get down to one.
That's it. That's it. One of them's locked up. Cathedral. There we go. Running in there. Ah, there you go, Ron. Not me. Not me. Cathedral's taking on Batty. Yes, we're still trying to hang in there despite being down one wheel. Pretty detachable this. Yes. Batty's back over. Hit incoming in just a few seconds. Yes. Ignore the next noise. What happened? I have to ban you. Oh, wrong button, dude. Right, 1 minute left in the match.
The double.
Oh no!
Barbie stand.
No!
Cathedral just gets away.
Guestimate's in trouble.
Pushing against Barbie and not Birdie Batty. Ah, there's too many E's.
It's only Guestimate's a spinner left. Oh no!
30 seconds. Close. 3 left. So it's just two or three robotics. Let's go.
Come on!
Good charge by Cathedral.
Alan, you got timer?
Look, the fact that my
let me
motor
free.
split out was not good. I knew about that. I should have
I think it'll be done together just
put
between
tape in
these
it.
two.
Stop them from doing.
Got him with the roll again!
Pin at the end. Come here.
Ah, I love a good rumble. You see some wild things in a good rumble, and you take some weird damage in a good rumble. And I would say that is what happened here. I spun my weapon up, I was jamming it into people, I was getting some good hits, I was having a whole lot of fun, and then we hit Midnight Sun, and that was explosive. I do not know exactly why that hit was so much more violent than all of the other hits I'd got all weekend. I think it was just a really good contact between both of the weapons, both weapons exerting energy into the hit, and it just rocketed the two robots apart. That was great. Unfortunately for us though, it did also eject one of my motors slightly out of the robot. And then in a weird turn of events, I could somehow still drive like this, and I hadn't actually had to return to Crab at this point. I was just able to drive even though the motor was really only hanging on by the wires that were forced back inside the robot. And yeah, that was just an odd way to be driving around the arena. It was also, of course, not great for the motor. The motor was very, very exposed, as you saw when Batty just takes it off in one hit very, very quickly, very, very easily. I wasn't really surprised by that. It was hanging on by two threads, two wires, back in, connected to the main control board. That was it. I was expecting it to not stay around as long as it did, if I'm perfectly honest. And of course, with that motor down, we are now back to Crab. It is the theme of this video, I think. Guestimate just underwent carrionization and became Crab many, many times in this event. Thankfully, as mentioned, he does actually crab walk pretty well, and I can mostly keep the weapon pointed at people while I'm crab walking around, and it works okay. I had at my advantage was the fact that it was a rumble. A lot of other people were focusing on each other. So once I was starting to crab walk, people weren't really targeting me that much anymore. And by the time I was getting back in and engaging, I was really one of the last weapons still actually working, which meant that I could protect that other wheel. Not that it really mattered because, you know, we got pushed down the pit, which is often what happens when you are up against somebody who can drive a lot better than you, and when you're crab walking, you are not driving well. It's just all bad. So yeah, we went down the pit, I think fairly deservedly in this one, and that ends all of our fights for Robot Havoc for this year. There was a lot of fun, and there is a lot of stuff I think we can work on and improve with Guestimate. First of all, both of the weapons I had bent. They are S7 tool steel, but they were unhardened, and I think that's what kind of led them to bend. I definitely need to sort that out in the future. Maybe harden them, maybe do a whole different weapon system. I'm not entirely sure yet. Something will happen along those lines. The wheels and the drive system, I need to attach my motors a lot better. I think I'm just going to tape them in as well as clamp them to stop hits like the Midnight Sun hit ripping them out of the chassis again, because I don't ever want to have that happen again. That was not fun in the slightest. And look, maybe I'll look at wheel guards, but it comes down to weight is the issue. Or, you know, I can trim my robot, I can trim my controller a little better, I can work on my turn so that it's not quite as twitchy when it's turning, and I can just drive better. Maybe I'll do that one, just because it saves a little bit of weight, and again, I am very, very close on weight with Guestimate. Anyway, there you go. That is how Guestimate performed at ARC's Havoc for 2025. I hope you have enjoyed that one, and I will see you in the next video.